So last but certainly not least is our original trailblazer, the one who blazed a trail when there was no trail to blaze, is Ruth Nawotniak. So Ruth is currently, believe it or not, she's been retired for, I think, what, like 6 years now at least. And so she is now a consultant, an independent consultant and an educator for HC Pro. She does some of their boot camps. So I'm going to let Ruth talk now.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you for providing this wonderful opportunity for all coordinators to hear what these delightful ladies have done with their lives and how they've managed their careers and how they've taken what they did in the past to apply to the next job and then the next job and the next job. And that is something I think that coordinators are kind of unique in because of the types of jobs we have. All coordinators tend to learn the job. You don't go to school to be a coordinator. You take a job and then you have to learn it. And then you apply all those skills to creating new positions, which is wonderful. My career path was a little different in that I stayed in my same position for 20 years. I was approached to take another job outside of in a different state. And I was very open about that with my program. And when I came back from the interview and the chair of the department asked me what they were offering me, and I told him he got the university to match that salary. So I was very happy to stay in my position. I had a wonderful program director who was very supportive and very appreciative of everything I did. I was the first coordinator in my program. And actually came about as a result of a citation that the program had received from the ACGME. You better get yourself a coordinator, guys. So I was the one. So I could kind of tailor my job to what was needed in the program. I came from an education background. I was teaching, and I left teaching to start my family. And when I wanted to go back to teaching, there were no positions available. I was a master's degreed teacher, and they wanted to hire new early, just graduated teachers as opposed to a master's because of salary differences and all. So I found myself looking at this job as coordinator position. So once I interviewed and found out more about it, I realized that my education background was a nice marriage with the new coordinator position because I could understand what the educational mission was for the program, for the training program. No medical knowledge, but that wasn't where my forte had to be. I was there to manage the educational program. So that was good. I will share that my first day on the job was Monday of match week. So it was quite an initiation into managing a residency program and the interview and the post-interview process. So that was quite unique. And then 2 weeks after that, I was sent to my first coordinator conference, my first surgical coordinators conference. So I had almost immediate immersion into what coordinators' issues were and what they had to do. And of course, I came out of that extremely glassy-eyed. But it really was a wonderful base to start from, having those types of experiences. I realized the value of joining organizations and being a part of the conversation in that organization. And my personality was one of, if you're going to belong to an organization and you value it, you might as well be a leader. So, you go to the leadership roles and you become treasurer, secretary, vice president, president. You go through all the lines of the leadership. So over the course of my work with GME, there was a need, and going to conferences, I really realized that there was a need for the education. There wasn't a lot of ground support for coordinators. You learned your job because your program director told you what he needed. And if you were fortunate, as I was, they had a program director who was very, very engaged with the education process, and we had a lot of good conversations. I was mentored very nicely. But going through networking at conferences, I realized there were a tremendous number of coordinators out there who had no support. It was all self-learning. They even didn't have support from their GME offices because the GME office is looking at the broader picture. And it's, you have to send me this information because I need it for my reports. There was no one there saying to the coordinator, let me help you find where you find that information. How do you put it together? Now, that's a very blanket statement, of course. There are many organizations out there who were supportive, but by far there weren't. So I realized that that was a niche that I could fill. I was happy in my job. I had family. I had, responsibilities to family and organizations outside of my job. So I could not easily pick myself up and move to different positions that may have prevented themselves. So I had to find what I could do to help with my job in my city without thinking of moving through the ranks. I could have done GME through the ranks, but that never caught my passion like education for coordinator. That was really, really my passion. So that's when I realized, and well, the other aha moment I had was I was presenting at a conference and I was looking through the program. And at the end of the program, it listed all the presenters' names. And it was Dr. this MD, Dr. this PhD, so-and-so, everybody had credentials. And then there was Ruth Nawotniak. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is the world of academia. Academia bases some of their credibility on the letters you have after your name. I have letters after my name. I have a master's degree. Granted, it's not a medical master's degree, but it's a master's degree. So from that point on, everything I did, my letters, my emails, everything had my credentials after it. And that was one of the things I talked to coordinators about, is that you have to establish your credibility. And one of them is, if you have a degree, do that. Tout your, as you were saying, Karen, tout yourself, toot your horn, put those degrees after your name. Okay. So that was an aha moment for me. And then the more I interacted with people, the more I realized in coordinators that there were no materials for coordinators. There was nothing for them to go to. Pick up the phone, ask your GME a question, they'll say, okay, I need it by Friday, hang up the phone. Not where do I find it? What resources can you help me with? There was nothing, which then caused me to realize that I could write a book. I could put something together to help coordinators learn how to manage their training programs. So that was my career path. My career path was staying in my program, managing it, loving it, but seeing what I could do to help the educational component for coordinators, have them understand their jobs better and learn in their roles of being a coordinator and learning what they need to do and how they need to do it. So the books started. HC Pro then invited me to be at their workshops when they were putting them on and presenting. And then I said, we need a workshop that's just for coordinators, and we need to focus on new coordinators. Coordinators who've been in their jobs 10, 20 years, they have a network. New coordinators don't. They don't know where to turn. Some coordinators will ask a fellow coordinator help, and the fellow coordinator won't give it to them because they're afraid they're going to take their job over. Or they don't want to share that information. I don't want to tell you that because then you can do it. I mean, and some coordinators had lots of help, but had to be something to fill that niche. So that was my career path: doing the books, doing the programs, the workshops, the boot camps. That was my niche. And so once starting this, the other thing was starting the certification process, C-TAGME. Part of that credibility is to recognize the skills and the knowledge and the ability that the coordinator has. And people were not recognizing it because, as one of you mentioned, they don't know what the job is. Terry, you were talking about that. It's very hard to tell people what you do. Where do you start? What do you say first? So part of the feeling behind the certification process was a ground roots efforts to say, I recognize you for the job you do, and I value the importance of that role of the coordinator in the managing of the programs. Programs would fall apart if there's no coordinator. When you go through 2 or 3 coordinators in 1 year, the program is not in the best shape. But the coordinator has to acknowledge that and recognize the skill it takes. And once there's a certification in place, it's amazing how many others, oh my God, you're certified. You have letters after your name now. Therefore, ergo, you must be an expert. So that was my career path, was to try to establish and grow and create these resources, which coordinators could use then to then grow from there, to use those as conversation starters with their program directors, use those to help conversations within the coordinators themselves, use those for self-improvement and self-education. And then to go from there, to go from one job to another, to go from a coordinator to a GME assistant, to a DIO, to an associate program director, to go to Thelmus, to do, to do other things, because you had something to start the process with. Take advantage of opportunities. You have a goal, you have a path, you say, I want to be the GME director. And you're going along, and then all of a sudden something catches your eye and you go, oops, and you make a 90-degree turn. And that goal no longer matters. You're now on a new path. So the flexibility of changing, people who really love GME want to stay in GME. And you ladies have all shown all these different paths you can do to move through GME and all the various levels of GME and all of the institutes that support and work with GME. But you also have to be willing to take that risk and to make that 90-degree turn, because you'll find your passion in that area, and that can only help others and support others. That's me.
Thank you, Ruth. And I mean, I think I speak for everybody, that you really paved the pathway. You've been a mentor to me like my whole career. Even before I knew you, you were a mentor to me. So I just really appreciate everything you've done for us and continue to do for us.
Well, and now that I'm retired, I still do some consulting work. Yes, I work with institutions in training and working with new coordinators. That's where my focus is. I've done some work with advanced workshops with seasoned coordinators, but I really love working with the new coordinators.